Hey guys, welcome back to our weekly online art lesson. My name is Neil Young and I'm an administrative assistant here at the Southern Alleghenies Museum of Art in Altoona. So like last week, we started off by looking at some of the Woodstock artwork that we have displayed here in the Altoona Museum. So I thought we would do that again. Last week we focused on the CCR poster that we have displayed. And we have a lot more posters other than that one. But I wanted to show you some of the non-traditional mediums that we have displayed here as well. So behind me we have some of the t-shirts from Woodstock. Now, the first lesson last week, I talked about Woodstock in '69. But Woodstock was actually a concert that took place 3 different times. And even though the other 2 were not nearly as significant as the one in '69, they were still very important to our country and the history of rock and roll. We also have some of these newspapers on display here, which those are incredible because they really emphasize the importance of the posters that we have on display and just the significance of this whole entire concert. But with that, let's get started on our weekly lesson. If you remember our I think it was our third lesson, we focused on the artist Bridget Riley. Now, Bridget Riley was an optical artist. You might remember me talking about that. So I'm going to do a continuation of that and sort of touch on some more important parts of op art. So let's get started. So, you remember, this was Bridget Riley, and in this lesson we did the heart drawing. So, optical art. When something plays tricks on your eyes, it's called an optical illusion. Op art, or optical art, is artwork that plays tricks on our eyes. So that might make us wonder, what really is optical illusion? So optical illusion can use color, light, and patterns to create images that can be deceptive or misleading to our brains. The information gathered by the eye is processed by the brain, creating something that in reality does not match the true image. Optical art occurs because our brain is trying to interpret what we see and make sense of the world around us. Optical illusions simply trick our brains into seeing something that might not be real. But according to experts, optical illusions help make our brains sharper. It also helps us understand the difference between looking and seeing. So with that, let's get to our lesson. But let's look at some more optical art so we can get some inspiration for this project. So I'm going to focus on just black and white optical art this time to make it a little more simple. So here are these are pretty complex, but here are some really good examples of optical art. As you can see, these are 2-dimensional objects, but it almost looks like you can fall into the image, especially this one here with the black hole. It's kind of crazy that lines and shapes can cause our brain to think that that's actually a hole in the paper. But optical art can be very simple as well. As you can see here, this image is simply just rectangles over top of each other, just getting a little bit bigger every time. And it creates a really cool visual experience. Here is a few more examples. This one is very similar to that last one with the rectangles, just circles gradually getting bigger. And I also showed you this one on our Bridget Riley lesson. This is a famous piece by Bridget Riley that almost looks like we were falling into the paper, and it's just checkers, just getting smaller. So for this lesson, I thought that we could have a little more creative freedom than some of the other ones. We're going to all draw something that looks and appears to be an illusion, But let's try something new. Maybe choose one of these images that I've already shown you and take inspiration from that and try doing something similar. You can always follow along with me though and draw what I am drawing if you like as well. So, we're going to get started by simply just drawing a square onto the page. Like I always say, we can use anything that we have laying around our house for art supplies, whether that's crayons, markers, colored pencils, whatever you got. All right. So a square is a good point to start with an optical art drawing because it gives us a border to create within. So let's then think about patterns. So a lot of optical art involves just simply lines. Here, this is a little more complex with checkers, but feel free to take on something like that. And if it doesn't work, try it again. You could try something simple like these lines here, just going in different directions. Or if you're feeling really colorful, try something like this. But for this lesson, I think I'm going to do something really different with waves. So I'm going to start out by just finding the center of this rectangle, somewhere around here. And I'm going to start by just drawing some wave-like shapes that go from the very middle to the farthest point on the outside of that rectangle. As you can see, I'm sort of trying to follow the original shape that we started with, but of course as we move this line over, it's not really going to be the same shape, but it'll start out with the same curve. All right, so I created something like this, which is going to be a good base. I really want this image to look like we're falling through it into this black hole here into the center. So that's kind of hard to imagine right now with just these lines that we have. So I think I'm going to do some horizontal lines that go from left to right on the to connect the lines. So we will have something that looks like that. Now you can see that I curved these upward, so that means that the next one I want to curve them downward. So that creates more depth. Depth is basically what we're trying to get, just meaning that you can fall through the page, or that it looks like it's more than just 2D, it's 3D. So then we have something like that. So I'm just going to continue to do that process back and forth between curves going upward and then below. So are you guys creating something different than I am, or are you drawing the same thing? I hope that some of those pictures inspired you to maybe try the checker pattern, or maybe some of those simple line drawings like the rectangle. Those were really cool. Okay, so I ended up with something that looks like this. Now, this looks really chaotic right now, but all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go in and basically color in every other blank space with black. So we're gonna have a black and white checkered looking image in the very end. So as you can see, there's my start. So if we color this black, then that means we'll leave the top one white. And if the bottom one is white, we'll do the top one black. So we're gonna alternate the colors. So have you guys ever seen optical art in person? There's a lot of artists who do it. Bridget Riley was one of the more famous op art artists of the 60s. But there are a lot of artists that still continue her same practices and create some artwork that's very, very cool. I think creating optical art is really fun and pretty relaxing. It's almost like a meditation. It's kind of like a coloring book. So as you can see, I'm starting to get something that appears like an illusion. I would love if you guys post your pictures of your projects in the comments, especially for this one, because I'd like to see what you did. starting to come together the more we color it in. Also, are you guys using black and white, or did you decide to color this in with some random colors? So do you have a favorite artist so far? I asked you last week, or on Tuesday, if you liked Andy Warhol more or Keith Haring. So let's also add Bridget Riley into that. Does anyone like Bridget Riley more than both the other artists? I think Andy Warhol's my favorite. Just making the rectangle lines a little bolder to match the rest of it. All right. So this is my finished op art picture. I think it's pretty cool. If I would have added a lot more checkers, then it would even look more like an illusion. So always keep that in mind. The more complex it is, the more of an illusion it's going to be. But I think this still works, so. If you guys have enjoyed these lessons, make sure to donate to the Southern Alleghenies Museum of Art. We would really appreciate it, and I'll post a link in the comments so you guys have that. Once again, be sure to post your work of art in our comments or on our Facebook page. And I'm really excited to see what you guys have created, and I hope that you guys really like the op art. Once again, thank you, and I will be teaching you guys another lesson on Tuesday and Thursday of next week. Thanks, guys.